We got to get to number one. How are we going to do that?
In Croatia, right?
Well, starting with Croatia and then the world.
When we run the numbers and listen, I'm going to move mostly growth in the sign behind me.
So we've got to convince people we're entertaining and they want to hang out with us. High bar.
We find ourselves just playing the same game as before, but the game is now, it's been anteed up.
So you're telling me that 10th place in Croatia is not worth a whole lot?
The rules don't apply to podcasting, Kyle. If you're currently in second place, you should be willing to spend almost anything to get into first.
Second prize is a set of steak knives.
So you're either destined to go for first place or to come not even in second place, but like you're just not in the game.
Third prize is you're fired.
You think it's harder to get into Harvard or hit 25 million ARR as a SaaS company? Dramatically higher odds, but it's still a lottery ticket at the end of the day. CJ, have you ever voluntarily shown up for a panel?
No.
This is advice from my future self and also anyone listening. No, never go to a panel.
But I do have a third kid on the way, so if you want to pay me to be on your panel, I would love to.
From Mostly Media, it's Mostly Growth. Go-to-market strategist Kyle Poyer and CFO CJ Gustafson share smart takes on growing revenue and running a company. Pricing, unit economics, AI, leadership, candid insights for CEOs, CFOs, and CROs, or anyone else aspiring to climb to the C-suite. This is Mostly Growth.
Gentlemen, it's good to see you both.
Good to see you, CJ. I see you're sitting down, not standing up. Any reason why?
I can barely walk up and down the stairs. I did a half marathon this weekend. Let's just say these old bones don't move like they used to.
You got an ice bath underneath that desk?
Yeah, it was a good time. Need a lot of Gold Bond, but I got the job done.
How'd you do?
I did pretty good. I ran 119. I wanted to run 118, 117, but the last 3 miles, I totally fell off the pace.
So you did not beat and raise.
I did not beat and race.
Sergey would be disappointed.
I missed my earnings.
Got to get you an incentive plan.
Yeah. I wouldn't have bought stock on mile 11. I think I saw my ancestors. It was, I went to such a dark place.
Oh man. Yeah, that is not for me. I am not a runner. I went to New Hampshire and did very leisurely hikes through all the foliage.
Oh, that's so quaint.
Some leaf peeping?
Leaf peeping. That is the term for it.
I feel like your life is out of like an LL Bean catalog, Kyle.
I could be, yeah, we need sponsors. So LL Bean, we're open to it. Perfect demographic.
Ben, what'd you do this weekend? You worked 996?
A little bit, part of launching a new podcast, part of getting the original podcast up and running is you just got to put in the time. But I wouldn't advocate for this being the long-term solution by any means.
I have to pump you up for a second here. You're becoming a household name in my
household.
Yeah, in my household. That was the word I was looking for, Ben. Thank you. My father-in-law, Kyle, you're great too. But my father-in-law, he's like, I really love that. What do you call him? Your dictator friend? We need more of him.
No, I also I went to a soup party, bunch of soups. It was great. Celebrating fall.
Soup, like a liquid food soup?
Like a liquid food. Yeah.
They have parties with these now.
Yeah. And it's not even like a euphemism or anything weird. It's like, no, we truly were there to eat soup, spring and fall. And what would you know? There's so much rain today that my house is leaking. So fall is here, I guess, in LA.
I feel like a soup party is sponsored by Ozempic.
Have you ever seen the meme and it's a girl in a hospital bed with an IV and it says, don't try the clam chowder at Toyotathon?
No, but I got to pull that up somewhere.
So we've got Ben working 996. How's he doing? How's growth?
Well, I check the numbers because I'm a numbers guy. We're number 10, the number 10 business podcast in Croatia. Now, I've never been there, but I hear it's beautiful and they have great taste in business podcasts.
I mean, exceptional taste, clearly. Number 10 in Croatia, not a bad start. How are we doing in some other markets?
Number 52 in Russia. Surprised we're being streamed there, but we will take any listen. Any of our advertisers, if you're trying to sell an ERP in Russia, we have an in. It's kind of a back door of sorts.
We're focused on 51 other podcasts first and then get to Mostly Growth.
Yeah, go down your list. If the first 51 entry points to Russia fail, we are your boys. Portugal, doing pretty well. Norway, Switzerland, and my favorite, a hot market, Trinidad and Tobago, number 88. So, I mean, the sky's the limits from here. We've only done Is this the 6th episode? And we're already going global. We're like Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide.
I love it. Well, we gotta get to number one. So how are we gonna do that?
We got to get to number 1.
In Croatia, right?
Well, starting with Croatia and then the world.
When we run the numbers and listens, I'm gonna move mostly growth and the sign behind me up above. I think there are a couple different growth levers here, but it's different than a typical interview show. And it's different than, I think, like a storytelling show. I think it depends on who your audience is and the format of your show. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Also, I was running marketing at a VC firm for a while, and we had a podcast going back 5+ years. And I can tell you, it is insanely hard to grow a podcast. Like, everyone wants to start a podcast. Every company wants to start a podcast. And then they see how difficult it is to get listens on it consistently. And you did that with Run the Numbers. So maybe, what are some of the learnings? How did Run the Numbers grow? And what can we steal from your Run the Numbers playbook?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize what you said, that it's very hard. I think the main thing is just to keep doing it, because 90% of podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes and 95% or more don't make it past 7. So like, if you can make it past 6, like we are now, we're already in the money, boys. But it's truly just consistency and compound effort. There's this term in German that I can't pronounce, but it's basically the power to just strap your ass to the seat and stay there longer than other people. And it's true with podcasting, because it's a basis hits game. Like, people think that Joe Rogan was this overnight success. Not many people knew that he even had a podcast until after, I think, 1,500 episodes. So part of it is just outlasting others. And then the other part is, what I'm sure you experience this with your newsletter to a certain extent, Kyle. It's finding what I call audience market fit. So blending what you like talking about, what you're uniquely qualified to talk about, what people are interested about, and just keep coming back with that day after day.
I think to me, the challenging thing is that growth with a podcast is so different from a newsletter. A newsletter is inherently shareable. A great piece can go viral on social media. People forward that to their coworkers. Business podcasts almost never organically go viral. The positive side is the retention. Like, once someone puts your podcast on rotation, you're in their top 4, their top 5, they're going to listen to you on their way to work. The retention, I think, is fantastic, but it is an incredibly high bar to get to be part of that rotation for folks.
It is. And people forget that you're not just competing against other business podcasts. You have to also just look at it like an entertainment medium. And I'm not saying that like we're as important or entertaining as Taylor Swift, but if you're listening to music, it means you're not listening to a podcast. And how many hours a day are you doing an activity, something passive, like driving in your car on the train, where you can tune into something else? So to a certain extent, I think you are trying to get into the top 4. I believe on Spotify, you can only like pin 4, or it's either 4 or 6 different shows. And I think that demonstrates the importance of breaking into whatever that person's Mount Rushmore of things they tune into, because podcasts are a very habitual thing where you make it part of like your weekly routine to tune in. And you're also hanging out with somebody in this parasocial way where they're giving you like an hour of their time and they get to know you as a person. And I think that also helps with the retention to that point, Kyle, because you get to know somebody. Maybe you can fake it for 2 episodes, 3 episodes, but 1,000 episodes in, like, you are who you are at that point.
So we've got to convince people we're entertaining and they want to hang out with us. High bar, very high bar. When I look at podcasts, for a lot of them, they grow because they get these great high profile guests on their podcast. And then they have the guests promote the podcast recording on their LinkedIn. All their fans start, going and listening to the podcast, and you kind of steal audience from all these other people every week. And for us, we're just trying to, grow a podcast based on ourselves, and we don't have this built-in guest hook. So I think we're going to have to come up with some pretty creative growth experiments here.
The number one growth, and I won't even call it a hack because it's a very linear growth. It's not like, oh, I tapped into this and it went parabolic. The number one growth, I guess, lever that I pull for Run the Numbers is getting the guests to share it on LinkedIn after, because that's a business social network. Like, I'm not asking them to go share it on TikTok or something, because CFOs don't really have many TikTok accounts. They share it on LinkedIn, and then I get the show in front of other CFOs that are in their network. We don't have that because it's just us as many. Ben probably has like a good 200 LinkedIn connections, so maybe we get in front of those.
3,000, please.
But I think we will have to find other ways to do that. And I think something that I've noticed is a couple of brands, and we weren't even trying to do this. We've been talking about different companies and what they're up to. They've given us some shout outs just because we've mentioned them passively. So that could be one element to lean into some of the stuff going on in the news and what companies are making waves.
Yeah, there could be something there. I think the other thing for me is a lot of podcasts can be hard to find because they're on, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Like Google searches, you don't necessarily control, where they show up. It's difficult to get those sites in front of people outside of the algorithm doing its thing while someone's in the platform itself. And so I think for me, just one of the first growth things I want to do is make the podcast incredibly easy to discover in the places that we can control. And so, putting together a LinkedIn page for Mostly Growth, right? Putting together a page on our newsletter websites that list out the podcast episodes, having links in our welcome emails to new newsletter subscribers, pointing folks to the podcast, just making it really easy for anyone that hears about the podcast and wants to listen to it, like they know exactly how to find it. To me, that's got to be the starting point.
I think there's also the considerations that go into what's your top of funnel. And Ben's done a really good job of slicing up shorts for us. So how do you get something that's digestible? Maybe it's something that gets your blood boiling or just gets you to look further. Ben's really good at that, picking out. He likes to clip the most controversial stuff we say, right, Ben?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, I was with my dad this weekend and he kept making fun of me. He's like, AI ROI. So thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we got a listener out of him. But I think like, how do we frame up what our top of funnel is? And then what's the action we want someone to take? And ideally it's to get them to subscribe and get into that top 4. What I struggle with, Kyle, is that it's so fragmented. In the newsletter universe, you're just trying to send them to one page and then they consume it in their inbox, right? Like, where the end destination is. For us, there's Spotify, there's Apple, and then increasingly YouTube, and then the long tail.
Yeah, so we've got to send people to 3 or more places at once. Breaks that rule about one call to action.
Yeah, what link do I share? Do I share all 3 or do I assume that you like YouTube?
It's a tough question. I think to me, YouTube has got to be the default. Part of it's easily accessible. It's on everyone's phone. People could pull it up on mobile really easily, but also on desktop, and it's visual. And so anyone that's like watching it, I think will be more engaged if they just listen to it. I found data that even though we talk about Spotify way more than Apple Podcasts actually has a lot more listeners. Now, am I making that up or is that?
No, you're not.
So does the data show?
For Run the Numbers and for this show so far, it's Apple, then YouTube, then Spotify, I think, right, Ben?
I think so. I think that's right. Yeah.
All right. So we'll push people to Apple, hoping people have the Apple devices. The other thing is when I look at more consumer podcasts that are like talking style, right? Not interview style, people do get a lot of runway out of clips on Instagram and TikTok. Now, we're probably not going to rush to start an Instagram and TikTok accounts, but I think we could do something similar on LinkedIn with these short clips.
Yeah.
How does SEO or what's it called? AEO? How do those play into this? Should we be trying to lean into certain keywords?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if we're that advanced yet, but I do think at some point we've got to figure out the lists of whoever writes lists for like best business podcast, best tech podcast, best growth podcast. Maybe bear hug a writer or two and convince them to just maybe slot Mostly Growth in those pieces so that ChatGPT sees us and they start spitting us out to anyone who asks about it.
We should also think about some sort of referral program where maybe we give away Yeti mugs or hats. We talked about this in a prior episode. I don't know how effective that was or how great of an ROI it is if you're spending $50 to $80 per gift that you're giving away, but I do think it gets people excited about it. And hey, they're fun to use.
For listeners out there that want to help grow Mostly Growth, send us your ideas. We'll give the best ones a try, and then we'll talk about how they went on this newsletter, and maybe bring in a guest or two to talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you know how old podcasting is?
Old podcasting is.
I've got two bits of trivia for you. How old podcasting is?
I used to listen to podcasts on my computer, and so they've got to be kind of old. Like, 30 years old?
But Is it before the first iPhone, you think? Because pod
Oh, I
makes me
listened to
think-
podcasts before I had an iPhone.
Yeah.
Really? Because it's an RSS feed. I guess Apple didn't invent the RSS feed. So, all right, Kyle, what did you say? 30 years?
30 years.
I'm going to say
What's your guess?
15.
The concept of like attaching a sound and video files to RSS feeds was first proposed in October of 2000. So
Oof.
it's almost 25 years exactly. But CJ and Kyle, do you know what technically the first internet radio show, it wasn't actually the first podcast because it was like before they really invented it, but there's a show that is like famous for being the first proto podcast.
Howard Stern?
I'll give you a hint. It is a sports show.
Oh, Bill Simmons.
Nope.
What? No?
No, it is. I'll just give you the answer here. So in August of 2000, I'm reading from Wikipedia. It's the New England Patriots launched the internet radio show PFW in Progress. But this was before RSS, like they launched it before that. You had to download it from the website. And then in 2005, 2 years after the introduction of the iTunes platform, they then started offering it there as a podcast. And it's still around today under the name Patriots Unfiltered.
Wow. Ben, didn't expect this out of you. This is amazing. From the top ropes, Ben. Benevolent Ben, at it again.
From what I see, New England / like Boston has a very deep connection to early podcasting. There's like some Harvard in here, WGBH, I think. A whole bunch. New England's all over it.
I used to listen to an unhealthy amount of Boston sports radio. I would listen on my phone using it wasn't a podcast app. It was basically just streaming the radio. And I'd be driving around trying to find parking on like Commonwealth Ave. And I used to always call in and I'd always be Carl from the car.
Carl from the car.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got to have a new segment.
Oh, you can send in like voice memos or something like that you think of when we're, post recording.
I mean, that's probably where Bob's Barricades came from.
Exactly. Next up, the era of haves and have-nots. Does second place matter? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I've been having an existential crisis lately as to if we are in a bubble or not. And I think we'll touch on that later in the show. I might cry. I might laugh. I don't really know. But Dave Kellogg, friend of the Run the Numbers pod, and one of my favorite writers on the internet. So he has Kellblog, which is his like before Substack was even around. He was kind of the OG when it came to the newsletters and blogs online, when it came to growing companies and as a startup operator. And he was writing about like, hey, we've actually seen this movie before. The whole ecosystem is predicated on coming in first. So there's a power law return in all venture funds where basically 1 or 2 out of the 10 to 15 investments return the entire fund. And this is just that exact same game on steroids that we find ourselves in. And everybody wants to get the winning company, be a part of the winning company. But with the advent of AI, and if you think that we're kind of on this third wave of you go from desktop to mobile to now AI, it's even more important to get first place. So people are just increasing their bet sizes. So the bet sizes that were on the poker table before are a lot larger. And what he points out is that you don't really make much money. You don't build an incredible company or be looked at as a winner, even if like in other markets you would be considered a winner if by coming in second place. And so this is a topic that I've thought about a lot, even before like this whole AI boom of like how important is it to be number one in your market? The example of Uber versus Lyft. Uber's market cap is like more than 30x that of Lyft's. So I think we find ourselves just playing the same game as before, but the game is now, it's been anteed up.
So you're telling me that 10th place in Croatia is not worth a whole lot?
The rules don't apply to podcasting, Kyle. But in venture, I think it does apply. And especially with some of these companies that are raising, I think the average YC company coming out this year was at a $60 or $70 million post. Mind you, some of these companies have only been around for 3 months and have no revenue yet. That's about 3x what it was in 2022 when it was around 15 to 20 million coming out. So like the game hasn't truly changed. It's just, I think, the magnitude of it. And when the magnitude of it changes, people just keep stacking larger bets on top of larger bets because they fear that they're going to come in second place and they won't get anything for it. And they've already wagered so much and they already have so much money in the middle of the table.
Dave brought up an interesting point in this piece. He said that you don't just need an AI story to fundraise anymore. You need an AI story and you need AI growth. Mathematically speaking, a point of growth is worth about 2.3x a point of profit from a valuation standpoint. So, any company, once they start monetizing, the pressure is on to prove that they can grow insanely fast and they can have a path to being number one in their market.
And he said first place ends up worth 10 to 100x second place, and second 10 to 100x third. You should be willing to pay almost anything to get into the leader. And if you're currently in second place, you should be willing to spend almost anything to get into first. Second price really is a set of steak knives. And that's one of my favorite quotes. I might butcher what movie that's from. Is that from Glengarry Glen Ross?
As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives.
I think that's a great quote. You still get a set of steak knives for second place, but the prize is way better than it's ever been for first. So I don't know. I think part of it too is just not knowing what game the person you're up against is playing. And if everybody else in the ecosystem is going all in to try to get first place, it's pretty dangerous to try to be playing for third.
I think that there's different routes that you can take with this data, right? Obviously, if you are in a new market, like a vibe coding, for example, in a new market that's worth a lot of money, it's a race to number one, makes total sense. So you try to raise a lot of money, grow at all costs to get there, be that dominant player. But I think for many companies, you want to maybe look at this and you go, well, how do we not compete in the same category, right? How do we tell a different story? How do we go after a different segment? How do we be vibe coding for healthcare or the security conscious enterprise? And I still believe personally that for many of the best companies, they operate in niches where they're not trying to go after a mass horizontal market where it's almost impossible to serve everyone well. They dominate a really specific part of the market. They build a defensible moat around what they're doing, and then they extend from there from a position of strength. But that's where you can grow much more efficiently. You have a defined universe of target customers. You know exactly how you can spend money to make money, and you tend to just build a much more efficient, more profitable business that way.
I think first place in any market, even if I'm making it up, the best newsletter for CFOs, or the greatest pickleball player in the world. You can make a lot of money being the best in something specific. I think we're now in an age where value and context are so much greater, the more specific you can get, to your point, Kyle.
All right, CJ. So be number one, worth a ton of money. People are going to pay to get in those companies. Those companies can invest in growth to maintain the number one position. If you're a founder or a CFO, what do you do with this information, right? If you're not number one today, you can't go out and raise a boatload of money to become number one. You've got real constraints. It's probably going to be hard to get funding. You also are going to be struggling to figure out where to invest because the other players in the market are probably saturating all the channels that you're trying to go after, and they have more money to afford those channels than you do. So what do you tell the company that is number two or number three?
I would say to become as specific in the use case that you're trying to serve as you possibly can, because there'll be less people or less companies fighting to win that strategic high ground, and also to hire people that are aligned with the mission that you're on. I think a lot of these AI native growth companies, they've pointed out, like they're in take no prisoner mode. They hire people that make you feel uncomfortable how aggressive they are. You have to align your org to, I think, the mission that you're on and the end customer that you're trying to serve. It's going to be extremely tough. It's going to be a knife fight to do anything horizontal. So going vertical, I think, works. And then knowing what type of outcome, like work backwards to that. If you don't think this is going to be like all the chips on the table, all in, we're shooting for the moon here, then don't raise a ton of money. Try to build something that is more sustainable and durable and has cash flow now. And we've talked about this before, Kyle, but the ability to skip one round in funding is worth so much. You can end up with 20 to 50% more of your company just by delaying or skipping a round of funding. So if you're not in this game where you're just pouring capital through the top to go into first place and fight in a wide open or a wide horizontal market, then you should change the funding structure that you're trying to use to scaffold this.
I think those are all right. The other thing I'd encourage folks to think about is pull back on some of what you're doing on the go-to-market side. So I'm running a state of GTM survey right now, got about 200 companies participating. And I ask folks which go-to-market channels are core to their business and which are experiments. The average company has about 5 things that are core and another 5.5 experiments. So they're essentially investing in 10 to 11 go-to-market channels. And these are generally early stage companies. Like they're just doing too much. I can't imagine that each of those growth channels is driving the same return. And so what I would encourage folks to think about is how do you play to your strengths, right? Any go-to-market channel could actually work for you. But I think one of the things we recognize is, what are the specific things that you're going to bring to the table to be the best at it and better than your peer that might have more money than you? So if you're really exceptional at building relationships, partner-oriented model probably could work well for you. If you're really great at content, an organic and inbound playbook could work well. If you're great at, getting paid ROI and kind of constantly iterating on ads, paid digital ads could work well. Really find what is unique around the skill set that you have and your team has and lends itself to the product advantages that you bring over your competitors. And I would say double down on 2 to 3 go-to-market channels and then maybe have 1 to 2 experiments. So take that 10 and bring it down to 5 go-to-market channels.
I really love that. I interviewed Kevin Drost, who was the CFO, Chief Business Officer at a company called Reverb, which was acquired by Etsy. And what he was saying is with their marketplace, they tried to take every marketing channel, like one by one, up to the point of diminishing returns and then peel back and move to the next one because they knew that they didn't have the most money in the world to try everything, right? How do we lean into an arbitrage opportunity within one of these channels? It may have been paid growth. It may have been partner-led stuff with musical companies out there. But how do we be the best in this one channel and get the most bang for our buck before we try to do 50 different things?
Yeah, it's so hard to do that because you start seeing success with a channel, you scale it up, and you kind of feel like you've scaled it up, right? Like, let's move on to the next channel. But there's almost always ways to further double down, right? If you were to take even more time with that channel, there's so much more that you can do. You almost kind of get to a local maxima, and then you've got to find that global maxima over time.
Really well said.
I think that you read articles like Dave's, which was a great analysis. I think folks should read his piece, but you read articles like that and then you listen to any VC and they're going to talk to you about how the best companies are growing faster than ever, how if you're not hitting 100 million ARR in 18 months, they don't want to fund you, right? Like T2, D3 is dead. You've got to be growing faster than that to attract the venture funding. I see all of that out there and it makes me think, like, how likely is this, right? Is this a realistic path for many software companies, or is it just people that want to find the outliers that are, amplifying this stuff and making other people think it's achievable when in reality it's just a select, small handful of companies that ever reach this promised land?
Well, the greatest lie the devil ever told or the VC ever told is that you have to go for broke in every one of these scenarios. And the data shows that there are a lot of companies out there who don't go that path and are still wildly successful, but they don't have the amplification of the message because there wasn't somebody behind it who wants to show off the prize that they won. And then there are all these companies left by the side of the highway that, just got crushed because they went for it. So I mean, I keep saying it, but it's knowing what game you're playing and then knowing what game the person funding you is playing. And so, of course, if you're a VC and no fault of them, you want the companies taking it to believe that's the best way to go and that there's prestige in it and it's a battle worth winning and that, there's valor in trying even if you fail. But yeah, those are the rules of the road. Have you seen any compelling data on this, on how hard it is to make it?
Well, I had not seen great data, and so I decided to try to find some myself. I teamed up with ChartMogul, which is a CRM and SaaS metrics platform. They had data on about 6,500 software companies with historical records going back more than a decade. So we could see just how difficult it is to make it as a new SaaS company. Curious to get your expectations, CJ. Now, do you think it's harder to get into Harvard, or hit 25 million ARR as a SaaS company.
I saw this on LinkedIn and it blew my mind. I did not realize how hard it was to hit that revenue growth. What's Harvard's acceptance rate? Like 3%?
Harvard's now about 3.5%, which is
Okay.
wild to me that it's that selective, but 3.5% at Harvard. And turns out only 2.3% of SaaS companies make it to 25 million ARR within 10 years of their initial monetization, right? So we're hearing all of these stories about like the Lovable hitting, 100 million ARR in a year. If you put that into perspective, that is extremely, extremely, extremely unlikely. And the much more common situation looks like this. Company takes venture funding. They use that venture funding to try to grow. The growth doesn't pan out as expected. They end up with a massive preference stack on their business. And then they're in a position where they've got to pull back that spending and get to profitability. Revenue is not there yet. And all of a sudden, this business that had so much potential is now looking at a really challenging situation because they tried to be that outlier company and it didn't work out.
So you're either destined to go for first place or to come not even in second place, but like you're just not in the game. I think that's the takeaway.
For so many of these venture-backed companies, absolutely. Some other stats for folks that are curious. So looking at the ChartMogul data, and I will caveat that there's maybe some survivorship bias here and probably some bias around if you're signing up for a product like ChartMogul, you're probably building a serious SaaS products, right? So it's not like totally randomized in terms of the companies represented. But within the data, from initial monetization, almost half make it to 1 million ARR within 10 years. So this is, a 2016 cohort and earlier of company. So about half will make it to 1 million if they stick around long enough. And then about 1 in 10 makes it to 10 million ARR. And then, as I said, only 2.3% make it to 25 million ARR within 10 years. And so I look at this data and I go, it's maybe kind of like podcasting, right? Where if someone grows at a moderate rate, retains, 100% or close to 100% ownership of their business, does so profitably or at break even, maybe can bring in AI tools to run a lean business. Like if you stick around long enough, this is durable revenue that can compound and you could build a pretty amazing lifestyle business, maybe with a nice exit down the road. But I think for many of these companies, the path is more follow that bootstrap path and control your own destiny rather than expect that that breakout outlier path is going to work for you.
The question is, are you willing to work for 10 years to get to 1 million in ARR? Is that a good business?
If you can have fun doing it. I mean, if it's the work that you like doing and you're your own boss and you're building something that you think should exist, I think that's a pretty cool lifestyle, especially if you can do it with a relatively small team that's tight knit and, you want to work together for years.
Well, I think you kind of alluded to it there. It's an annuity stream. That's what we're assuming here. It's ARR. So if you can build it to a point where it's 5 million in ARR, and I don't know how many years it takes most companies to get there. Oh, it's within 10 years. So it's the same time frame. But to get to 5 million within 10 years, and then you keep it, like this is like a Constellation Software play where they gobble up these companies that spit out 3, 4, 5 million in EBITDA, and they do it for 35 straight years. Like that's a pretty great place to be.
Right. And this is only really feasible, I think, if you're building in a niche, right? If you're trying to be in a massive horizontal market with 1 million competitors, you're not going to have that much staying power. Now, if you build for like automotive repair shops and you build like a feature that really specific auto repair shops need, right, but maybe the rest of the market doesn't need, and then you become the best at that specific thing, these auto repair shops are not taking your product out. Like they don't even change out their browser, let alone software that's working.
Yeah, they're using Bing, as I've told you about on prior episodes. I really like, Kyle, how you use the analog to college acceptance rates here. It helped frame it up. Like, damn, some of these milestones are a lot harder than I thought they were to get to. And it makes me wonder, is it the constructs in which we play the game that make it harder? Or like if you were in a vacuum, would it still be as hard? Like if you weren't trying to go for, like we said, first place, how would that go?
A couple of other stats for folks that I think puts this into context. In general, older cohorts of companies were more likely to hit these ARR milestones than more recent cohorts. And so companies founded and that started monetizing, for instance, in 2016, 2017, it was harder to build a software company back then, but I think a little bit easier to distribute, right? Less competition, right? So once you were launching that product, if you stuck around, you could hit these ARR milestones. For companies that were founded in 2020, 2021, we're seeing fewer of them hit these ARR milestones out of the gate than older generations had done, within 3 or 4 years of initial monetization. So harder to actually stand out now than it used to be. But one silver lining for folks, well, actually two silver linings for folks that want to see the full data. One is that geography mattered a bit, but not as much as I actually thought. So Bay Area companies were more likely to hit these milestones. There's a ton of advantages to being in the Bay Area. There's also added costs. So they were 70% more likely to hit $1 million ARR within 3 years. They're 150% more likely to reach 5 million ARR in 4 years, and 40% more likely to hit 10 million ARR in 5 years. So Bay Area companies are definitely at an advantage, but they're not that much better off than places like New York City or other regions in the US that are not the Bay Area. And so I would just encourage folks to think about, you can certainly improve your chances of being an outlier in the Bay Area, but there's no reason you can't build a long-lasting, durable business if you're based somewhere else.
So you brought up the concept of local maxima before. There's this heuristic that companies get stuck at around 20 million in ARR. There are like these humps, right? Like get to 1 million, get to 5 million. They say a ton of companies get stuck around 20 million. And the reason is they run out of friends in the Bay Area who are also tech companies or buy their products. And at first I thought this was a joke, but like it actually kind of makes sense because who are the most forward-leaning companies to buy stuff? Other tech companies. And so if you exhaust the pipeline of companies out there who are just like you, like, oh, I'm a new ERP. I'm going to sell to my cousin who has an HRIS product, who will sell to his college roommate who has like a data pipeline product. After a while, you then have to expand to new sectors and new use cases. So I always found that adage interesting.
Yeah, it is really difficult to scale beyond those early adopters. I promised 2 silver linings, so I shared one. The second one, AI native companies were actually way more likely to be some of these outliers that we've talked about. And so AI native companies in the data set, they're 3 times more likely than average to hit $1 million ARR in their first 6 months. And they're 8x more likely than average to reach 10 million ARR in their first 12 months. And so this is like the outliers that we're looking for that the VCs are trying to fund. For whatever reason, AI native companies are, far more likely to be these outliers than we've seen in the past, which I think is also what's attracting so much funding around this AI bubble. You're potentially better off than before if you're AI native, but still fewer than 1% of AI native companies reach 10 million ARR within their first 12 months of monetization. And so dramatically higher odds, but it's still a lottery ticket at the end of the day.
That's what you're doing. You're buying a lottery ticket. And I take it back to the person level, the individual. You said the time frame on this is 10 years. How many true at-bats can a person have in 10 years? How many true at-bats can a person have in their career? And when you start to work backwards into that, like I bet there are some quote unquote people that are like companies in this data set who are in here 3 times, right? Because they failed twice, but then the third time they ended up breaking through to 15 million in ARR.
Yeah, I think that the data says perseverance is really key. And if you have something that's working that you can kind of keep building on and use your loyal customers and sticky ARR as that foundation, as long as you have the profitability profile to keep funding it and keep growing, there's power in persevering.
Next up, we got a segment called Business Blunders. Take it away, fellas.
Well, I'll start with a question. CJ, have you ever voluntarily shown up for a panel?
No. Well, I don't know why I pictured like Robespierre in the French Revolution, like showing up to get his head chopped off or something. No, I haven't done that.
So I keep seeing panels. They're at, webinars, conferences, like you name it. I keep tricking myself into thinking I should maybe go and listen to them. And it's like, oh, there's 3 guests. These are smart people. No, never go to a panel. This is advice for my future self and also anyone listening. panels always end up being terrible to listen to. I think I've seen really any panels that end up being insightful. They end up resorting to the lowest common denominator. Everyone agrees with each other. No one wants to say something controversial. And the best speakers get about 5 minutes of talking out of a 30-minute session. And so you end up never getting below the surface level on any topic, even if someone is giving a good insight. I'm starting to convince myself that like the only reason why we even have panels is it's a way for folks to get certain people to show up in an event. It's when you want someone at your event, but you don't actually care that much what they have to say, just throw them into a panel. Panels are great for events. They're not great for people at events.
But if I don't do panels, how will I pay for my children's daycare, Kyle?
Hey, if someone wants to pay you to be on a panel, you could take the money, but you just might want to donate some of that to the audience afterwards.
The problem that I have with panels, two things. One, you mentioned it, they go to the lowest common denominator, which in my experience has been just talking broadly about strategy. So there are many books written about strategy. There are not many written about tactics. Every single panel ever is just about high level, just buzzword strategy. You walk away with like, oh, that was interesting, but like not something I can take back and use today. So if you are hosting a panel, try to make it about tactics and actually doing the work. I know it feels like you're going in on the minutia, but that's way more valuable than people being like, the AI market is big. Do you think the AI market is big? Yes, I do. The second thing that what kind of grinds my gears with panels is they think that every single person needs to answer the same question. If there are three people on a panel,
don't get me started on that.
You don't have, by the time that you've gone through the second person and asked them on their thoughts, they've exhausted and taken all the air out of the room on that topic. You don't have to go to the third and fourth person and be like, Christine, and what do you think on the topic? Because you're actually setting them up to have nothing good to say. And you can kind of feel bad for them where they're kind of just swimming, trying to say something insightful, but not controversial, and trying also to not repeat the person that just spoke before them.
Yeah, it's time. You heard it here first. Let's stop the panels.
But I do have a third kid on the way, so if you want to pay me to be on your panel, I would love to.
Next up, we got our segment, Pricing in the Real World. Take it away.
Back to the topic of expensive children. So, Kyle, I got to run this pricing scheme by you, and then I want to ask if you'd like to invest. We went to this place called The Wonder. It's basically a playground for children inside. So we had a bit of a storm this past weekend in Connecticut, and we had to get the kids out of the house. And so my wife went and signed our family up for, like I said, it's like they have basically jungle gyms and different activities that kids can do. But it's like really nice inside. They have ball pits. They have dress up stuff. It's basically like if you were a kid, this is where you'd want to go and hang out. And so we go, and I found out that we signed up for an annual membership, okay? This place, you take your dog to bougie dog treat places. This is like the bougiest kid play place I've ever seen.
I was stuck in a McDonald's and the price of admission was a Happy Meal. This is not looking like the McDonald's play center.
An annual membership, you have to prepay up front, and it's basically between $1,600 and $1,800 per year per family. And what that ends up doing actually is you can't do any drop-ins, okay? So there's no one-time monetization, and it keeps the base of consumers or members down, which makes it so like there's more space when you come in. But at the same time, they also do kind of feed off that Planet Fitness model of like, we make money when you don't show up. And so I wanted to run this by you because it's a pretty neat model. We've been to these before. Like on the low end, the free one is at McDonald's where they have that gross ball pit that you can jump in. But there's also one nearby that's an indoor playhouse, and it's in a location, honestly, that like they probably didn't have anything else to do with the space. So they probably got a pretty good rate on it. So the overhead's pretty low, but this place did like one-time drop-ins. This place, like I said, just annual memberships. And then on top of that, we're having my 4-year-old's birthday party at this coming up. They also do birthday parties. So basically, for the price of an annual membership, you can also have a birthday party there. So I was in the back of the envelope math. I think this thing is an absolute cash machine, and I love how they set up the membership model.
Oh, the membership, that pricing page is so brilliant. I mean, I look at software companies' pricing pages all the time, and it's just this like boring laundry list of features, usually with like names of the features that no one outside of the company knows about at all. And here, I think it's brilliant how they just added certain things that make you want that annual membership. Like it's limited, right? It's like the black key. Sounds pretty fancy. You get, you can pause it. And so even though it's annual, you have some flexibility, maybe more flexibility than month to month. You've got the birthday credit. And first dibs on dates. So it's got that exclusivity. Like if you want your kid to have a birthday party there, if you have the annual membership, you've got a better chance of getting that and not disappointing your kid than month to month. Like I just love how they're cashing in on the fear and greed of wealthy parents like you.
Yeah, exactly. And we signed up because we went to a birthday party there. So it's a flywheel
So the
effect. When you go-
virality. Ooh,
Yes,
love
there's
this even
virality
more.
embedded in this business model, Kyle.
That's awesome. The closest thing that I've thought about subscribing to is there's a dog park bar in Boston.
No way.
It's an indoor dog park, but mostly a bar. And you can kind of bring the dogs in there when it's raining or, wintry outside. It's similarly priced, but hey, I'll do anything for an excuse to drink.
My wife caught me talking to like the kid at the front desk who's definitely making like $15 an hour. She's like, what could they possibly be talking about? I'm like, hey, on average, how many families come in here a week? He's like, at least 70 different families come in a week. So then I start to do the math. I'm like, that doesn't seem high enough. I'm like, you don't have any like stats in your CRM, do you? He's like, what's a CRM? And then my wife's like, CJ, get back over here and watch the kids.
You're looking at franchising this model.
I honestly am. I think if this podcast gets big enough, Kyle, I'm going to funnel any profits into building one of these children play zones, premium deluxe play zones, because it's not a recurring customer forever, right? Because eventually your kids get old enough, but it's a recurring market in the sense that there are always kids between the ages of 2 and I'll call it 6 or 7 in the area who are going to be good candidates for their families to do this. So there's always like a pool of families coming in who will pay for it.
From mostly metrics to mostly media and now mostly memberships. I like it.
Mostly memberships.
Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production. Executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth. Mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe. Give us 5 stars or hit like. The algorithm overlords thank you. Drink water, call your mom, and have a great day.